you go through the entire thing and you get down to the very end and you feel as if all the buying signs are there, but he doesn't want to buy because his wife isn't there. The decision maker or the other party that is the co-decision maker is not present there. But in that moment, the agent typically ruins the entire thing. They try to, well, let's just get you qualified, and if she wants to change, she can change it later. It makes them really uncomfortable, and you can actually ruin the entire thing, even your opportunity later. Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Life Insurance Academy podcast. I'm here with my man Chris in studio today, and we are actually coming at you, continuing our series on objection, trying to give you the tools, resources, the mindset, the confidence, and the charisma to be able to address these objections and turn them into successes. Today, the cool thing about this topic is we just talked about this about 4 seconds ago, and so we haven't really discussed it. So you're going to be able to hear us live discuss this on air, which is really cool.
Sometimes we'll be in mid-sentence and say, okay, stop, we need to talk about this on the podcast.
I think that's what we did, actually. He's like, no. He gets all frustrated and gives me that, like, get off my lawn look. Get off my lawn. We'll talk about this in the podcast. But yes, so today we're actually talking about a common objection that you get that you may have heard of, such as, we'll have to talk about this, or when my spouse or wife or husband get home, or we'll have to pray about it, or we'll need to have a discussion. Or is there any other ones you hear?
My sister takes care of my finances.
Yeah. Can you just write it down and leave it with me? We're gonna have a family meeting, a discussion, or and the whole idea behind this podcast is the decision maker isn't quite in the room.
Right.
The decision maker isn't quite present. So we want to talk about, how did we get to this point, Chris?
Right. Yeah. And I'm going to spill the beans on this so they have an answer on the front side of this, okay?
Give it to them.
This is not an objection. Boom. Pin drop.
But why is it? That's probably the expensive pen.
It is. It goes to my tablet.
But why is that not an objection?
Because there's information that we have to gather during our presentation that will reveal who needs to be in the room at that point. And if we're getting that, we didn't do the work to understand who belonged in the room. We would call those stakeholders.
Can I challenge you, though?
Okay, let's give it a shot.
Is there any objection that we want to get or that we should get? And the reason I'm saying that, isn't that in every situation that we can get the information at the beginning or present the information in a way to eliminate all of them?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, so I guess it is an objection.
Yes.
Ish.
This
one's a little different.
I'll give you the ish because now
this one's probably the easiest one to discover versus...
Oh, yeah.
Right? Do you see what I'm saying? Like I need to think about it.
And this is the one that everybody has done. And you got excited about it.
Yeah,
and you may even get some false temporary success that we talk about, right? About how, well, he did it great. And what we're talking about is a code that we're talking about is a one-legged sit. Can you explain like what that even means?
It's when you sit with a client who has
one leg. Because there's certain policies that we work.
Why can't we just be grown-ups on this podcast, Adam?
Let's edit out the we of that, please.
Yes. He's going to change it to me, be a grown-up. No, a one-legged sit is when the decision makers are not in the room, or the person who's a co-decision maker. So we'd call that one-legged.
Yes, and typically this is a mistake. This is a lesson learned from a new agent. I did it before. You've done it before, to where you're so gung-ho and excited about presenting a plan of insurance or trying to help a family out in a situation, but they're both not there. But yet you proceed.
They're both not there. Poof, smoke cloud, boom, abracadabra.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
But one is there, the other one's not.
Yes.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. Before we get into the details of this, have you sold a policy on a one-legged sit?
Yes, I have.
Are there situations where you feel like it would be okay to do that?
Yes, there are.
It's very, you
Yes.
don't even want to say that though, do you?
It's very specific. Yes,
Yeah.
it's very specific. But okay, when you say are there, maybe not physically,
Okay.
but there are a very limited situation. But how I come to learn that is different. And I'll give you a little backstory. One is, I do a door knock. One of them is there. Maybe I'm brand new and I don't even ask if there is a spouse. And I just get really excited because, hey, this person kind of let me in the door. I'm just going to go with it, Chris, right? Mm-hmm. I get my stuff. I go in. Maybe I didn't do my due diligence in building a relationship and building trust and figuring out about their family because I'm so excited about possibly getting a sale again. You go through the entire thing and you get down to the very end and you feel as if all the buying signs are there, but it's the true things you should be reading: body language, tonality, their responses. I'm probably overzealous. I'm probably talking the entire presentation. I'm moving through. I'm not asking any questions. I'm not asking them why it's important. I'm just like, oh my gosh, this feels so good. I'm new. I'm about to get an app, right? Yeah. And then you get all the way to the end and he doesn't want to buy because his wife isn't there, or she doesn't want to buy because she lives with her daughter and her daughter's at work, but her daughter handles all her finances and I had no idea of that. Yeah. The decision maker or the other party that is the co-decision maker is not present there.
Right.
You feel defeated. You feel upset. You feel frustrated. You feel that you've wasted your time. Mm-hmm. But in that moment, the agent typically ruins the entire thing because they don't know any better. They're brand new. They typically try to push hard. They try to speak reason. They try to, well, let's just get you qualified, and if she wants to change, she can change it later. And it makes them really uncomfortable, and you can actually ruin the entire thing, even your opportunity later.
Right. That makes sense. There are situations, like you said, where you may run into that. And if we have time, we'll talk about some of those specifics at the end. Let's talk through one of the things that we say is it's important to determine the stakes. Mm-hmm. What's at risk of not taking action? What's at risk of what is there to gain by taking action for our clients? And we do that during our core process. We do that both on the telesale side and on the sitting face-to-face side of things, get into the stakes. I think there are some times when you're sitting with a client and they have that name or that person who does handle these types of things in their back pocket. And it's kind of a surprise at the end for an agent when they're like, "Pya, secret sister."
Betty, bam.
You had no idea that Betty was there. So is there a way during the stakes conversation that you're, maybe you can sniff that out a little bit too?
Yeah. I honestly believe that you're not doing, if you're you have to have the full picture, right?
Correct.
You're an artist and you're trying to recreate a painting for them to see, but you're doing it based upon their memory.
Oh, that's very, very good. Yeah.
So if we're going to paint a picture for them to see based upon their memory, what do we need as an artist? We need all the details. Right. We need to know all parties involved. We need to know everything that's around or effect. We need to know the color, the mood, everything. Trust me, I'm not an artist, but that's the mindset we need to have going into this. So it is in the stakes, but it's also in building trust. it's important for us to know what makes this person click. What's their family relationship like? Like, one of our goals is, at the end of the day, they're actually going to be putting a policy in place that's going to benefit their family members, but they're actually never going to be here to see it through. This is the one gift that they pay monthly, every single month for the rest of their life, that they will never see to come to fruition. Mm-hmm. So it's a piece of paper and a promise. So who's that promise going to? How will it affect them? When we're asking to raise the stakes, we have to know what their life looks like. When we're talking about the stakes, Chris, to your point, the stakes is what is at stake? What are the vulnerabilities? What are the needs? These are all words that can jumble together. We need to know in that situation, when we talk about taking care of the final expenses or taking care of the mortgage or the future cost of final expenses or the loss of income or being able to leave a legacy for these people. So in order to know that, we need to know who's contributing financially here.
Yes.
Who's helping.
Mm-hmm.
Do you cover all the bills, or do you have somebody that helps you?
And you're asking that question during the stakes questions.
Yeah,
during your
yes.
core determining,
Yeah.
when we say core, having discussion about child, occupation, recreation, emotion, you're getting some of those pictures throughout there.
Yes.
And then you may, during that process, have that question, especially if you're, I'm guessing you probably do this in every sit, but even more so if you're sensing based on what everything you're seeing or hearing from the client.
That's exactly right. And so the core part, the children, occupation, recreation, emotion, which is the trust building phase, if you will, I'm learning all the characters of the story.
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And the stakes, I'm taking those characters and understanding the backgrounds of each of them and what role they play in this person's life.
Yeah.
Because that's going to, only then will I be able to identify what are the true vulnerabilities and at what level are those vulnerabilities. Like, wow, like she's not understanding, like this would be a major issue.
Correct.
For example, her, and let's say her husband, one makes $1,200, one makes $800, one of them passes away. Do they know what happens in that situation? Well, the surviving spouse is going to get the higher of the Social Security. He's going to get the $1,200. They're not thinking about that. They're thinking about putting a policy in place when in reality, that's going to create a $9,600 a year deficit in normal household income.
You went really fast. And that is probably one of the most important conversations you have with a couple when you're doing a presentation. Mm-hmm. And if the other one's not there, you just wasted your time. I mean, there's no other way to say it. If that other spouse isn't there.
The other part is typically in a relationship, one of them, they typically both don't fill out the lead, meaning they both don't put pen to paper and, hey, you write the address, I'll write the zip code. Like, it doesn't happen. So
kind of like that ghost moment where they're making pottery together and they're filling out a final expense lead together. That's so weird.
That's
I
awesome.
Apologize.
And their hands are like, all, you know. But in this situation, if we understand the importance of leads, there's some sort of emotional attachment that happens that triggers someone to actually see the lead, for it to catch their eye, to catch their attention, to appeal to them emotionally, that makes them take an action to actually fill out a request, whether it's online, whether it's in person. That person is going to have a different opinion on protecting their family. It could be the spouse. It could be the man, it could be the female, it could be the brother, the sister, because if they're sharing bills in there, but that person has probably had some sort of health scare that made them feel like they're not invincible anymore. Yeah. They could have had somebody pass away. Either way, it's on one of their minds. The likelihood that it's drastically on both of their minds is not that likely. We don't know which one that is.
That's a really good point. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because sometimes it may be important to her. It was important to him 3 weeks ago. Kind of ebbs and flows. They're never quite on the same page.
And it could be a man who's starting to feel really bad and getting scared, and he's feeling like he's got to do his husband duties or fatherly duties and to put something in place to leave a legacy for his kids. The way I talk to him in the stakes, and when I ask why it's important and why does it really matter and what would happen here and how would it affect them and how would that make you feel, like I'm asking all these emotional questions, his responses to those, because of what he's been through, because of his heart, because of what he wants to protect for his wife and family. Again, I'm not selling him a policy. He's buying it. But the trick is his wife is hearing those words come from him.
Out of his mouth.
Out of his mouth.
Maybe for the first time in
probably,
years.
Probably for the first time, or at least at that extent.
Mm-hmm.
And we're almost a facilitator of emotions between the family and between the vulnerabilities. Because some people think more in terms of numbers financially, logically. Some people think more emotionally or lead with their heart, right? So you have different dynamics. And when they can see that the ones that are affected the most are hearing that love, they're hearing the vulnerabilities, it's magical. And we're almost like educators at some point. We're almost like counselors at some point. We're almost as professional doctors at some point. Right. Like we play all these different roles, but one thing we don't play is a salesman, right? We're helping them as a volunteer, as a friend, as an advisor, as someone that can just help them do their administrative assistant and get them paperwork. Someone who can advocate for them in underwriting. Someone that can be a mailman and deliver the policies to them. We're playing all these roles.
And if you're sitting with someone, either on the phone, having a conversation, or in their home, in their apartment, on a bucket on the outside, whatever it is, I mean, you can ask simple questions. When you were looking into this, was this something that you were just looking for yourself, or was there somebody else that you were checking into this for also? I hear that a lot on our scripts, or agents who are using scripts with us. Another one, who were you thinking about trying to protect? Because typically, if there is a secret sister who pops up, out of the corner, it sounds like a horror film for final expense agents.
Yeah.
But if there is, it's generally can be the name who's going to be the beneficiary, and the stakes have a name. That's how we say it. Stakes have a name. And if you don't know that, the person who's gone through the entire sales process, they didn't get a name of anybody. They're the ones who are going to be shocked when they 100%. Find out about secret sister.
Yeah, because you're not applying that purpose or that emotion to anybody,
right?
And it means it's not going to stick. But it's okay to even ask, like, oh wow, you live here by yourself since your husband passed away. Now your kids, how often do they check in on you?
Yes.
Do you still do everything on your own? Do you still pay your own bills? Do you still make your own decisions? It's like, or do they come in and help you? I know they're very protective.
Let me play devil's advocate. Agents who are hearing this feel like, man, that's deeply intrusive. Like, you're asking a lot of personal questions. You're taking a risk on being booted out or hung up on because you sound scammy.
Not true. Okay. And the reason is don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking on the door and say, "Hey, Mr. Chris, now do you make your own decisions? Do you got a bank account?
Right.
And do you pay your own bills?" Right. Like, you earn the right in the relationship to be able to have that conversation on a real basis.
Yeah.
So that's the most important part is understanding that this is steps, that we do teach a principal sales system, that this is a process. But you're exactly right. But what's the flip side of that coin? Waste another hour, get to the end, and you can't.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah. Follow the process. Those questions will come naturally. They'll be received well.
And I'll tell you, this is what happens. For the most part, I would say 80% of the time, if you do a one-legged sit, in any normal family that isn't like, and I'll give you some examples of when it probably could work, but any normal family, you're probably not getting the sale at all in that moment. Not saying you can't come back, you can't do a reschedule, which you can, but you're going to have to go all the way back through square one.
Right.
Like, you can't expect to come to that second appointment and do prices and applications.
No, you've got to go through the whole thing.
So now you're doing two completely different sits when you could have been sitting with another family. So we talk about time management, right? So probably 80% of the time, you're probably not getting the app. Another 15% of the time, you can get the app, but then they're going to cancel on you, right?
Yeah.
And it's not that they don't need it. It's not that they don't think it's important. It's not even that they can't afford it. It becomes an issue of their spouse or their significant other or their daughter or the co-decision maker feels disrespected that they weren't included in this decision, and they're going to force you to cancel it out of principle, and then they would redo it together. The person you sold it to is going to save the embarrassment and end up buying it from somebody else because they don't want to admit that that was the issue. So the ones that you celebrate and you feel like, oh, I sold a one-legged sit, great, it's probably going to cancel. Maybe 5% out of all the one-legged sits will actually stick and stay. And that's just, at the end of the day, guys, that's not what our goal is. Our goal is to help every family we can. And by just doing it the right way with the right people, everybody's in the know. And we can actually help more families, because it's not about, well, it's 5% of the time I can get an app. No, it's I don't want the 95%
You're saying
for it to fall off.
5%. Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't agree with that.
You know, and I will say and right or wrong, Zach, I'll give a specific example, because there's an instant case that I think of every time is spouses of truck drivers.
Boom.
That's the one where I will typically, depending on how the conversation's going, we'll move forward, where it's they do make typically that's a lifetime of experience. So that means that spouse is generally making their own decisions in most cases, right? And then I will even if it's possible to get the spouse on the phone and have the conversation with them and let them know what's going on, so they feel a part of it and not disrespected, like you said, and they come home and they find out, that their spouse made that.
And I want to explain why that's different, because that was the number one for me of areas that you would do it, is they understand their risk. They see enough wrecks. They see enough crashes. They're on the road all the time.
Right.
A lot of truck drivers, they make pretty good money, and they're typically the biggest breadwinner for the family. A lot of truck drivers, their spouses don't work at all or do a very small type of job, because if they have kids or grandkids, they're more available because they're always on the road, right? Typically, they both have, and it's not uncommon for the truck driver to have that emotional attachment and want that policy in place. The second part is, you said it, you want to call and get them on the phone, because generally they're aware, they understand the importance, right? And they're probably in their truck.
Yeah.
Like I've done a handful. I still don't like to do it. I like to see when they're back in town.
Yes.
But I've done a handful of those, and they've all been successful, because the difference is we got them on speakerphone, and I did the presentation as if they're sitting right here with me. Full engagement, allowing them to ask questions, me asking questions, raising the stakes, allowing them to move through together and talking about their relationship, like doing everything as normal as possible. And that has been very successful.
Right. And I would say there's a couple others, but and some of these don't have to be that way, where it did blow up on you of, yes, my daughter, my sister do help me make decisions. Then get them on the phone.
Yeah.
Or have them come over. If you're in the house, have them come over. Do a 3-way call. I've done many of those where you're pulling them on the phone and having that conversation with them as well. I see a lot of telesales agents now are doing a lot of one-legged closes, and I'm not sure I'm super comfortable with that, because of I think this is what I see. Confident agents close, but confident agents without a proper principled sales system get a lot of chargebacks.
Yes.
A lot of new agents don't close, but they keep more business on the books.
Right.
Right. So it's something to pay attention to.
I think telesales is slightly different, because you're more assumed that it's, hey, I'm getting my insurance, you need to get yours. And
Right.
it's almost like their spouse, that you're getting a referral from their spouse. But one thing I wanted to add to that, another situation that's a lot less likely that you would proceed with a one-legged sit is if you're in the situation, or you move into the home and you're in that discovery phase, trust building phase, if you will.
Let me tell you, if you've moved into their home, you've gotten a lot of trust already.
Oh yeah, 100%. And you're probably on the couch, but no. But you're going to have She's just throwing me off.
I'm so
Golly.
sorry, dude. But
I get it.
You're like Steve Nash throwing alley oops to me, dude. I can't help myself.
You're ever like Sean Kemp, bah, 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 right? Yes, but if you're in that situation, because sometimes, especially in the final expense market, they have completely separate income, and they may be together for legal reasons, or they may be together and not married because they can actually get more money separate.
Yes, I've seen that too.
In that situation, when they know they're in charge of their money, they're in charge of their own decisions, you have to clarify that. For those of you that say, oh, well, you're kind of getting into their business, blah, blah, blah. No, when you clarify that it's very clear and obvious they make their own decisions, which I've had clients that do that, then you're able to take care of this client completely. But in the same situation, if that other person, I'm still going to ask, do they have insurance? Do they have coverage? What's going on in place? And if they don't, I'm going to bring them anyways because you can kill two birds with one stone, right?
Right.
I'm going to do that.
He may want to hear this too. Go ahead and go grab him. Like if he's in the other room, right? Or something like that. Like, and that's another one. Like many times somebody will say, well, she's not in the room. She does not like talking about this. And then that turns into a one-legged, and of course they're going to say they're going to talk to their spouse. But tell them to go get them, or we go to them every time. And most of the time, they're the nicest people.
Oh, they're great.
And they were just used as a smoke screen in that situation.
100%. If their counts are together, you need them there. 100%.
Correct.
I can't tell you how many times, Chris, that it's been that, and I've been persistent, and I'll build a little bit more trust, because sometimes if they're like, oh, no, he's not going to do it, he's back there in the shed, or he's working on his car, or whatever the case may be, you can just deal with me, and, and okay. And then I'll build more trust. I'll build her trust. I'm like, now we really need him here. Do you mind if I just go back there and check on him? Yeah. And then I'm the one.
That's a great way of saying it.
I'm the one that goes and tells him, and I tell him the importance, and he brings it in, because if she walks back there, he's going to say, no, right? Yeah. But if I do it, it's been successful in doing that. The other part is, oh, no, she's got her own policy. We keep everything separate. Good to go. Okay, perfect. Now, I'm assuming you're her beneficiary, right? Yeah, perfect. Okay, so do you know anything about her plan or how that works? Or no? I was like, okay, let's assume she just passed away. What are you going to do? How are you going to even collect if you're the beneficiary? And he's like froze, right? He didn't know what to do. Yeah. It's like, so one thing that's very important to me, and why we do what we do, is we want to help people. And we work with just about all the different companies out there. And what I'm able to do is we're able to look at her plan, and I'm able to explain what you need to do and how you can help if that day comes, right? And then he's comfortable with that. She's comfortable with that, because I don't have to change her plan.
Right.
I just want to teach them and make them both feel comfortable and ensure that they both have the right plan and the right coverage in place.
So the great thing, and guys, if you're taking notes, this is a big one, is sometimes agents will say, what plan does she have? I'm not sure. Well, I might be able to save her some money. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not going to work. No, it is a service-focused approach that we want to make sure you know who to contact, who to reach. And matter of fact, I work with that company too, so you could even call me, but we need to make sure what type of plan she has.
Yeah,
so
we might be able to even get you a duplicate policy, and I can put instructions on exactly what you need to do on that.
Yeah.
Now you're providing that service.
And say boom
at the end of the day, it's not about even replacing that other policy. Even if you do that, I know it's crazy, even if you take some time, organize their paperwork, get rid of the 3 older policies they've had for 10 years that have already been canceled, get rid of them, throw them out, void them out, shred them, whatever, organize what she currently has, put in that place. Guess what that's going to do? It's going to build trust. You're not going to do anything with her policy, but it's going to solidify your relationship for both of them. Now, if she ever wants to add coverage, you know who she's calling? You.
Yep.
And that's the important part there.
Good stuff, man. So that's why we said at the beginning of this, not really an objection. I need to talk to my secret sister or whatever, my spouse, because we should know that information. It's the easiest one to know.
I got to add one more clue.
Okay, go.
Sometimes when you get that objection and you feel that they don't really need their help making decisions, you want to ask your client, or I would say now, you and I both know that your kids are going to try to take care of you, and they're going to tell you they'll help you with anything and they don't need it. You and I both know that if you get this plan in place, that they're going to try to say, Mom, you don't need it. We don't need to take care of it. We're going to take care of it for you. We'll pay for everything. We're fine, right? You know, that's the real part of it. But the reality is their client, and again, this goes into that trust and that building phase, is you're their mother and you're always going to be their mother. That you're never going to stop. You love them more than anything. And from what I can tell, it feels as if you just want to make sure that you're taking care of your responsibility and making sure you're not leaving your burden on them. Is that right? Well, that's 100% right. Plus, we already uncovered, guys, about their kids, about their grandkids, and how this, again, the stakes is so important, how this would affect the kids with or without this.
Right.
So even if you don't communicate those stakes, it's impossible to debunk that objection at the end if it's a fake I need to talk to them, because like, we've already established how it would affect them with or without.
Now, and to clarify, it's different if they're helping with their finances. Right? Like if they're handling their checkbook or they're handling their bank
Or
account.
payee.
Yeah. That's a completely different conversation. You probably aren't even moving forward until you're absolutely able to talk to that person or at least invite them over, give them on a 3-way call.
Yeah.
That's different.
Again, at that point, I don't want to give away all the goods. I'm going to, like, we're there because we generated curiosity about taking care of some of these vulnerabilities.
Right.
If I know the decision maker is not there, I'm going to maintain that curiosity. I'm not going to start talking about exactly what I'm here to do or exactly the prices or propose them a plan or look at their medications or do a full sit. I'm not going to do any of that. I want to keep them curious because that client of mine is going to help me get everybody together because they want to know, they want to see how we're able to help. If I tell that client too much information or we go too far in the process knowing we can't close, then the client, when they try to bring their daughter or that decision maker in, they're going to try to relay all the importance and the stakes to the daughter or the decision maker. It's not going to work. No. We're going to hit a major roadblock, and then we don't even have the opportunity to talk to the daughter. That makes it tough.
Guys, I hope this brings you some value. We've covered a lot of objections. We may have some more down the road. I would love to hear from you if this series has helped you write more applications. That's really cool. We'd also like to know if you have any questions. We'd be happy to help you. We do have coaching and courses. You can go to lifeinsuranceacademy.org to get involved and get plugged in. We have an excellent community of people who are helping each other out. And we have some big stuff coming in 2024. I can't believe I'm saying that, 2024. But we can't wait to see you on the, I don't want to forget this. Subscribe. And what are the kids, what's the other thing the kids are doing? Check mark. Give a check mark, subscribe. And again, we will allow you to share these episodes. Thank you guys. We can't wait to catch you on the next Life Insurance Academy podcast.